Hi guys, welcome to my video. I hope that you will find it helpful. If that is the case, then please subscribe and like so that we can keep this resource for free. Thank you. So after looking at the management levels, we are now going to look at the management functions. So there are 4 generic management functions. Now I know that in your textbook, I think it's 5 or 6 or whatever. Though this is the more traditional way of thinking about management as a cycle of planning, organizing, leading, controlling, and then planning again. And it's a cyclical process. And the reason I have stuck with this is because it is just easy to bring in the sub-management function under each of these. So really, you can say that there are 4 management functions, or you could say that really we are looking at 16 management functions, which can be generally put together as planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So what do we mean is done when a manager is planning? Well, if you are planning, you must first state your intentions. I want to be us to be the best training company in the world, and that's all okay. But after you've stated your intentions, you must actually formulate your goals. Okay. And after formulating your goals, you must draft proper proposals so that everybody is on the same page and work towards those goals. And then, of course, another part of planning is just making decisions. Now, in your textbook, decision making was almost taken as a separate management function, but really it is, in my mind, it's more part of the planning function. Then the second generic management function is to organize, and to organize simply just means we arrange things or we coordinate activities or people to make sure that they work together well. Organizing also entails making preparations and then delegating tasks. If you're a good organizer, you'll be able to delegate the tasks that you're not able to deliver yourself so that somebody else is indeed able to do it. It's really a way of multiplying your own time. When we talk about leading, firstly and foremost, we talk about the manager setting the example, also directing the people under him. So you don't have to be a director in the company to be a director in the company. So what I'm saying is we need to distinguish between directing as a management function and directing as a position in top management. Okay. The leader must also motivate, and then most importantly, really, or the most common management leading task is really to communicate. A manager that cannot communicate cannot lead. If a manager cannot communicate his vision, then he is still just a dreamer. And then, of course, we have control. Now, in the accounting environment, it's really all about the control. That's what we do more than anything else when we are capturing data and putting it in a certain format as we do in bookkeeping. So when we talk about control, we are firstly talking about the budgeting so that we know what to measure against so that we can measure. And then, of course, we standardize when we are controlling, and that is why we have the financial statements that look the way that they look. And then, of course, a big part of controlling is to adapt when something goes wrong so that you still stay on top of it. Okay, so now we're going to look at planning and organizing in a little bit more details on the next 2 slides. So remember, we have exactly the same 2 little circles that we had on the previous slide. Only thing now is I've given you a little bit more information. So when we talk about planning, we also have to distinguish between the type of plans that we have. So we have strategic plans, which are really how are we going to reach our long-term goals. Then we have production plans that is a little bit more specific, knowing how much we want to produce in a certain year to achieve certain targets so that we can sell that. There are different budgets. That's part of the planning process. Then there's business plans if we're looking to expand or looking for finance or just looking for other people to partner with us. Then there are the human resources plans that must be in place. And then, of course, business continuity plans, because as much as I like having a business, maybe I don't want to do it forever. And in any case, people get old and inevitably they die. And so there always has to be a business continuity plan as well. Then when it comes to decision making, we need to distinguish between the decision process and different types of decisions. So how does the process of decision making work? Firstly, is we collect the facts. You cannot make a decision based on anything other but facts or on hearsay. So therefore, there's a lot of facts that must be collected, and then once you've collected the facts, you must consider your different options. And once again, in order to consider your different options, you must know what your different options are. Then you select the best option, and then you intend to act. It's not really acting yet, it's just the intention to act. Once you've made a firm intention, or you have a firm intention or made a firm decision to act, then you can say, okay, my decision making process is complete. When it comes to decision types, there are many, but I've given you a couple there. There are investment decisions. Okay, are we going to invest our money in more machines, more production, or are we simply going to put our money in the bank? Then there are hiring decisions that needs to be made on a daily basis. Okay, growth and divestment decisions. Okay, so are we going to merge with another company? Are we going to unbundle the company? Are we going to I don't know, sell the company? All of those are growth or divestment decisions. Then there's obviously the product decisions. What products are we in fact going to take to market, and what are we going, which products are we going to end? Then there are production decisions that needs to be made, and many other decisions that is taking place on a day-to-day basis in a company. So then we can look at the next generic management function, which is organize. And remember, I did say that to organize is to arrange things, to coordinate activities and people, to make preparations, and to delegate tasks. So what does it mean again? Let's look at some organizing examples in an organization. Well, creating optimum work teams is part of the organizing function. Setting up the best organizational structure is part of the organizing functions, and then allocating resources in the correct ratio is part of the organizing function. Once again, when we talk about delegation there at the end, we talk about a process, and then we talk about typically delegated tasks. So how does the delegation process look? Well, you choose a task that must be completed. Then you say to yourself, okay, this is not a task that I have the time or the energy or the inclination to complete. I need somebody to complete this task for me. And so then you choose a person to give the task for. Then you don't just say to that person, congratulations, you are the person who's now selected to complete this task. Go and do well, young man. No, you give the person specific instructions so that that person knows exactly what is required. Then once you've given the instructions, you must release control. You cannot try to keep control, because then you haven't delegated and then you are still trying to do it yourself. Okay, so then you release control so that that person can do it. And then the only thing you do after that is to monitor and evaluate. Typically delegated task includes the following. You give somebody the authority to pay suppliers, limited to a certain amount, most likely. You give your HR people the power to negotiate, maybe with the unions for salary increases, and you give your, I guess, not just even your middle managers, but maybe even your supervisors, you could give them the right to hire and fire. Those are typically delegated tasks in a company. Then we have a look at the next two generic management tasks, being leading and controlling. And so when we talk about leading, as I said to you, yes, it's all about setting the example and directing. But what do we mean by that? Okay, so I've set it out there for you. The leader wants certain results. To achieve the results, he needs to change the behavior of his juniors. Because you know what? People actually don't want to work. They would rather get paid for not doing anything. So you have to change their behavior so that they can achieve the results that you have in mind. So it takes action that inspire them to behave in the way he desires. That's a fantastic leader if you can inspire people to act. If you can't inspire them to act, you can force them to act by using discipline. That's the other way of doing it. When he does this consistently, he is directing, and the employees are now not really moving towards the goal itself, but what they are doing in their minds is they are following the person. Okay, because he is such a fantastic leader. What does motivation entails? Well, we give employees a reason to work towards the business objectives, and then we reward that behavior. That is how motivation works. Motivation that does not reward is simply empty promises and no motivation at all. So you can say that if you complete the project, you get a promotion. If you can work independently, you get more responsibility, and then hopefully a bit of a better pay with that as well. The employee then becomes self-motivated, and now the employees are following the vision. So really, a good leader will help his subordinates to follow him as a person and also to follow the vision of the company. If a good leader directs but do not motivate, then if he leaves the company, then the company is in trouble because the people were following the leader and not the vision. So you really want them to do both. When it comes to communicating, now obviously you have business literacy, so you've done a lot of communication as well. But this is just the, I guess, a real basic outline of what communication entails for a leader. It's giving and receiving the information needed to achieve the business's goals. And one of the ways is through the annual reports, but it can also be through presentations, through advertising, meeting minutes, and then of course body language. Okay, so that what's communicated in the official communication actually is real and true, and not just a charade that's being put up. Then lastly, we can look at control. And I did say to you that's about budgeting, measuring, monitoring, standardizing, and adapting. So the principles there are that behavior is influenced and adapted over time. Okay, so anything that can influence the business is monitored, and then the best procedures and processes are put in place, and reaction to changes is swift. Because you have processes in place, even if something goes wrong, you know how to act and when to act, and how to put the right things in place. Thank you for watching this video to the end. If you found it valuable, please subscribe and like. Thank you.